Hello again, I'm Robert Fifth, and here we are again, back to ranking 215 albums from the year 1992. We are up to number 129, but before we get to that, just want to say how great this was to go back and listen to all of these albums, all in a bunch. It took about 2 months to do this. 215 albums, I listened to a lot of them multiple times. And it really took me back to the early 90s. I'm remembering things that I had forgotten all about, not just the music, obviously, but people and situations and places and just things that I had forgotten all about. And some song or some line in some song will just pop it right from the way, cellar of my mind right to the forefront. It's been pretty amazing, and it's been a lot of fun. And I'm hoping at least some of that is happening for you just by, seeing the album artwork or hearing me talk about the albums. But I really recommend this. You don't have to do 215 albums, but maybe take like a weekend or a week or something like that, a couple of weeks. Pick a year that means a lot to you. It doesn't have to be your favorite year of music or whatever, but just a year where there was a big change in your life, or it was one of your favorite years, a lot going on, most fun you've had in your life, and just listen to a bunch of albums, or even just a bunch of songs. Make a playlist or whatever, or find a playlist where somebody's got a bunch of songs from that year. Take a weekend, take a week, and just listen to nothing but music from that year. You can't break it up and start listening to other stuff and then come back. It doesn't work that way. Listen to nothing but music from that year, and I can almost guarantee you are going to remember some great things that you'd forgotten all about. Friends, acquaintances, like I said, circumstances, situations, concerts, whatever it is. Trust me, it's a lot of fun. So on with the ranking. All right, how about an album that starts off with 10 minutes of guitar droning? Well, what if the guitar droning is that of the Melvins? Then yeah, that's probably what you want, because to me, Melvins are basically all about that guitar tone, that great, stoner rock, not really fuzz guitar, but just that growling kind of, it's a perfect guitar tone that they've found in the early 90s, and they are sticking with it, and they are pushing that to the forefront. And their 1992 album is called Lysol, or at least it was, until Lysol either sued or threatened to sue. I think it was just a threatened to sue, and then they had to remove the name. And so now it's just Melvin's untitled album. But yeah, originally called Lysol, contains, I believe, 6 tracks. It's about a little over a half hour long, so it's not too long. Doesn't overstay its welcome, and it could. Music like this could definitely overstay its welcome when it's just basically just this great guitar tone. So like I said, the first song is called Hung Bunny, and it is just a guitar tone, just a buzzing kind of, going with the lead singer, Buzz, buzzing guitar tone that just kind of draws you in, and before you know it, you are a slave to this guitar tone. Your mind just melds with it. A proper song is after that, Roman Dog Bird, and then the lyrics come in, the drums come in, and we're set to go with Melvins. Now, again, just like I said when I reviewed their CD, they came out in 1991 in the previous series. Melvins are not for everyone. Some people would even listen to some of their songs and think that the record's on the wrong speed, especially if you have the 7-inch ones. It's like, is this supposed to be a 33 or 45? Or what? I think I showed one of my 7-inch singles in the 1991 series, but put that away. Forgot to get that out again. But anyway, yeah, so this has 2 Alice Cooper covers on it. It has Second Coming and a Ballad of Dwight Fry, which are both from the Love It to Death album. So they decided to just do a little Alice Cooper Love It to Death action here in the second part of this. The CD, there is no first and second part. There are no individual tracks. It's kind of like the first versions of Prince's Love Sexy album, where it is basically one 32-minute long track. And the only way that you know what the song titles are I think you'd have to have a magazine or something at the time, or maybe you were a member of the Melvins fan club and found out what the song titles are, because I don't think they're listed on the CD or the record. And so you just had to be one of them cool kids that were in the know in the early 90s to know all about what Melvin's song you were listening to. But it really doesn't matter. It's more of just a full album experience. Melvins are actually more of a band that's a live experience. Even though I did not see them live, I knew their stories about people who did see them live and just think, yeah, that's the way you do Melvins. get high, you go to the concert, you're zoned out with that guitar tone, you got some crazy vocals going on, but it's more just about buzzing, and you got a buzz, you're hearing a buzz, you're seeing a guy named Buzz. That's the Melvins. And then when I reviewed their album in 1991 series, a lot of people were commenting like, yeah, I saw these guys live, they blew me away, or at least they blew my hearing out for like 3 days, you know. And so unfortunately I never got a chance to see them live. But yeah, that's what you're getting. You're getting the buzz, the guitar tone here. That's really what Melvins are all about. It's slow, sludgy, you know, that kind of thing. Again, not for everyone. Did you know there was a Tubular Bells Part 2? Yes, there was, and it was released in 1992, about 20 years after the first Tubular Bells from Mike Oldfield, of course made popular by its inclusion in the movie The Exorcist. So we're back after about 20 years with the sequel. Now, I'm not that familiar with Mike Oldfield's other music. I know he put out a lot of albums between there. I don't know how they sound, but this one sounds like a proper single, or proper sequel to Tubular Bells. The first song, Sentinel, definitely follows the theme of that. It doesn't have the boom, though. It's missing that. But yeah, it's the same vein, it's the same idea, it's the same sound design as the original, but it does start to go in kind of a different place towards the end. It kind of becomes a little more melancholy, a little more beautiful, actually, than the original. So a little change up there for the end of the first track, Sentinel. And so yeah, you have that on here. You have the next couple of tracks, Dark Star and Clear Light, and this is where it starts to sound almost like Christmassy, like a little bit of a Christmas carol feel with the chimes going in there, which some instrumental music can do that if it's from a certain era and they have the chimes and the bells. A lot of people like myself, the only time they hear instrumental music like that is around Christmas, so it starts to sound like Christmas music. But by the fourth track, Blue Saloon, totally changes again, and you have this nice deep bass groove to start off that song. So it really is like, okay, this is really nice. And by the way, it sounds great. This entire recording is just fantastic sounding in a sonic, sonically speaking. It's produced by Trevor Horn. I'm sure this had some money behind it, so they were able to get the best studios, the best equipment, the best engineers, to really make this this recording shine. So it definitely has a nice sonic quality to it. So it goes on for a while. It has the different instrumentals and whatever. You hear Alan Rickman's voice in the track The Bell. He's calling out the instruments, bassoon and vocal cords and vibrato, and things like that. Just like it was in the first one. Of course, not Alan Rickman wasn't the guy doing it in the first version of Tubular Bells, but he's here on this one. And so it's nice to hear him again. Always was a nice big fan of Alan Rickman's. You have tracks on here like Tattoo. Has a little bit of a bagpipe thing, a little bit of drum and pipe thing going on there. So that's interesting. I don't think they're real bagpipes. Most of this stuff is synthetically, produced as far as the sound. I don't think they have real just about anything on here. But yeah, so you have that. You have the track Altered State, which you finally get some lyrics. But they're kind of absurd lyrics. You have, where's your mommy? I don't know. Who's that dummy? I don't know. Where'd she go? I don't know. Mommy's dead now. It's like, oh, okay, that's not funny. But yeah, so you get that towards the end of it, and then the final track, just out of nowhere, it's called Moonshine. You got banjos playing, ding-a-ling-a-ling, yeehaw! To wrap up Tubular Bells Part 2 from Mike Oldfield. So a lot of different sounds on here. Like I said, incredible sonic quality on this. I don't usually listen to, instrumental music like this, from the 90s especially. I mean, this isn't like, Wipeout or something like that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know how often I will revisit this. If I want to hear Tubular Bells, I'll probably stick with the original. And by the way, there's a Tubular Bells Part 3 that came out in 1998. I have not heard that. Maybe I'll hear that someday. But yeah, if you like instrumental music, if you like the synthy kind of stuff, you're not really into real instruments and things like that, and a band, playing along, jamming together, making a mistake here and there, falling in and out of the pocket, and it's all very much in line, synced up, you got sampling going on and that kind of thing, then you might want to check out Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells Part 2. I wouldn't do that, though, unless you've, checked out Part 1. Also, watch The Exorcist if you've never seen that. I talked about Bolt Thrower in my 1991 series, and they are back now with another album for 1992, this one called The Fourth Crusade. And it is, it's your typical death metal, thrash metal kind of stuff from Bolt Thrower. These guys, got the great guitar riffs. They seem to pick a really nice hooky guitar riff and just repeat it, every song. I think that's their motif. Let's find a really good guitar hook and just keep hammering it in every song. But sometimes that's all right, I guess. But it's a typical, really extreme metal kind of stuff from these guys. Tackling the subjects, checking off all the boxes, war atrocities and nuclear, madness going on. What's that going to lead to in the world? Empires are crumbling. Armageddon is coming. It's the end of the world. Scarred, messed up bodies. It's that kind of thing. And it's hard to tell whether they are warning against this kind of thing or they're celebrating it. But they do have the line in the track Spearhead, where they say, I pray this all cannot be true, or whatever. So, maybe they don't want all this to happen. It does sound like sometimes they're really getting into the thought of the world ending and, nuclear war and whatever. But, Bolt Thrower. Heavy music, a lot of it is that kind of a trick where they got the really, like the machine gun drumming, that kind of thing. But the song itself is really mid-tempo. They do that trick a couple of times, but it does have some actual speed going on in here a few times as well. The thing that's going to turn a lot of people away are the vocals. The vocals are those wonderful guttural vocals that happens in the extreme metal stuff where, that kind of thing. It's not too bad. It's not like extremely guttural, like you can't even understand what they're saying. You can understand about maybe 30% of it, so have the lyrics up and ready to roll. But that's going to turn a lot of people off. And that's what, happens with a lot of the extreme metal. Otherwise, people, I think, would crank up the music. It takes a lot of talent to play this kind of stuff a lot of the time. And, like I said, this one has the Bolt Thrower has a really hooky guitar stuff. But it's those vocals, if they would just tone that down and just sing from the heart, man, not from the wherever that's coming from. Bolt Thrower, it's going to turn some people away. 1992 was the year that the leader of Twisted Sister, Dee Snider, formed a new band called Widowmaker. Their album is Blood and Bullets. And this is not exactly Twisted Sister. This is more of an aggressive, kind of straightforward, hard rock, even some heavy metal in parts album. Band, really. And this kind of takes a lot of the cheesiness away, a lot of the gimmickry away, and just belts out just hard rock, just balls to the wall type stuff. So it's actually better than I thought it was going to be. I remember when this first came out, I totally dismissed this. I didn't want to hear it. I was into like the grunge and the hard alternative rock and some metal and stuff like that. And just did not want to hear Twisted Sister's new front guy's new band. But I did hear it finally after all these years, and not too shabby. What you basically got here is some guys who are total professionals, totally know what they're doing, have been rocking out for decades at this point, have been part of the music industry, they know what they're doing, but it's a brand new band. It's a new band name. They're kind of unknown. They're not going to go out there and set the world on fire immediately with another album because this is their first album. So they're hungry. They're staying hungry. They got something to prove, and that's exactly what this sounds like. Now, it's not all roses. It's not all wonderful. You do get a little bit of cheesiness here, just sprinkled on songs like The Lonely Ones, where it's got the lyric, "Out here, you've got to be stronger. Out here, you're right when you're wronger," things like that. You got ballads on here that we absolutely do not need, like Calling for You, this love song. We don't need Dee Snider doing love songs, so you can skip over that. Of course, this is a CD from 1992, so it is longer, so even if you skip over a few tracks, it's still a full-length album by, 80s standards. But Yeah, Snot-Nosed Kid, that cranks, that rocks. They got their own song, you know, their own theme song. Widowmaker, kind of like, you know, theme from the Monkees. They got their own, or maybe more like Bad Company's Bad Company or something like that. But, you know, they got their own song. They do a really nice cover that really suits them of Willie Dixon's Evil. You know, evil in this house. You know, and Dee Snider sounds pretty evil when he's singing it, but it's not over the top. It's not cartoonish. So I guess that's the word I was looking for earlier. A lot of the cartoonishness of Twisted Sister is absent here. But you do get a little bit of schmaltz. You do get a little bit of cheesiness here and there. And you definitely get some power ballads that, you know, like I said, my opinion, we definitely don't need. But I was surprised. I was surprised how good this was. Not setting the world on fire, not going to blow any minds. But if you do like straight ahead hard rock, you're a fan of Dee Snider, you like the early, you know, the early 90s stuff where they dropped the makeup and they dropped the act and they dropped the gimmicks and they just rocked out, you might want to check out Widowmaker, Blood and Bullets. I got a lot of CDs from 1992, not a lot of records though, but I can finally show one. Here is Bad Religion, and the album is called Generator. And yes, it has the record in here, and it even has the insert with the photo and the lyrics there, so you can sing along with Bad Religion. And their lyrics are, you know, usually what made this band stand out. Very pointed lyrics. But, you know, the usual themes of, you know, society's ills and, you know, lashing out against the government and television entertainment and things like that that make your life dull. Yeah, so Bad Religion, Generator, by this point, they're not really doing a lot of, like, the thrashy, fast punk rock stuff that they started off doing. Here, they've slowed it down. They're basically a kind of a rock band, basically. And some good stuff on here as far as the music goes. The lyrics, I agree with all the stuff they said. This is usually stuff that's better for young people, you know, impressionable young people that are just finding their way out in the world. I said that earlier about the Sick of It All CD. This is the same thing, you know, when you're just discovering the ills of the world and how unfair everything is and how it's all a bunch of bullshit. You got a band like Bad Religion to go, yeah, well, we'll lead the way. Even though in the song No Direction, they do say that no Bad Religion song can make your life complete, and you'll get no direction from me. Even though they do give some direction in their albums, like this one. I always thought this band was a good band. Like I said, agree with all the lyrics and everything. Was this rebellious teenager all into it? I just felt like the vocals were always this band's downfall. Greg Graffin is the vocalist. He's also the guy that writes most of the songs. You got Brett Gurewitz writing a few of them as well. The guitarist, but it's usually Greg Graffin, and he's the vocalist, and his vocals are just so, I don't know, I never got into them. I don't know what word you just, not really mundane, but just kind of, oh, well, if I were a team, blah, 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 Bad Religion, and I'm the vocalist, and here's what I'm going to say about these things, and now I'm going to sing about this, and I just sang about that. You know, it's that kind of thing all the way through the albums. And so it gets kind of, you know, you want somebody just to get in there and just belt it out and have some aggression and sing with some feeling and you know, have some notes going on, you know, a little bit of a key change every once in a while. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, was never a fan of their, why am I holding this like this? Never a fan of their vocals. And I think, like I said, that's why they never really broke out and became bigger than they are, although they were pretty big for what they were. I mean, they had definitely a lot of fans. You know, some music you can listen to when you're 20 years old and it all sounds, you know, like rock. You're cranking it up, you love it, you're agreeing with the vocals. Man, this speaks to me. And you listen to it decades later and you're like, man, this thing still rocks. And then there's other music where it's like, okay, I'm getting a little old for this. And Bad Religion kind of falls into the category of, okay, I still agree with the sentiment of what they're saying, but I'm kind of old for this kind of thing. So, yeah, that's kind of Bad Religion. Even though the music is a little more mainstream here, yeah, I'm just not a fan of the vocals. It really just all comes down to that, pretty much. But glad to at least have this on vinyl so I can at least show a record in this video series, and I'll also show one more later on. One more. I'll try to find excuses to show random other albums that go with the CDs that I'm showing, but as far as actually showing records that I'm talking about, I think I got one more after this one. All right, I said I wasn't going to do any unrankables. I'm ranking everything this time, and I wasn't sure where I was going to put this. This is an interesting one. Body Count is the band's name. Of course, this is Ice-T's heavy metal project, and quite controversial in 1992, especially one particular song on here. This is Ice-T going metal. They played Lollapalooza. They did the big thing out there trying to get the rock audience. I think they did get a lot of the rock audience. Ice-T doing all these controversial themes in here, a lot of profanity in this. And, you know, you got songs on here. Very first one, he's walking up to a policeman and saying he's got a flat tire and can he help? The cop's like, no, I'm not going to help you. I'm going to eat these donuts. So, you know, the cop gets shot. That's track one. Kind of like a little skit, I guess. And then there's a lot of those. There's a lot of interludes on here. There's 18 tracks on here, but only about 11 songs. So a lot of interludes kind of make this look like a bigger, track listing than it really is. You got the Body Count song where he's talking about, all the problems with the inner city. And again, the cops won't help. And he wishes he could be in Ozzie and Harriet sometimes to see how the white people live and all that kind of thing. And it's on with the body count. All his friends are getting killed and that kind of thing. He's got some wild shit on here like KKK bitch, where it's like, he's got this girlfriend or dad's in the KKK, so he sneaks in with some of his friends, puts the hood on and sees the KKK rally, and all the while he's doing the girl from behind or something. Her dad's up there, spouting off and whatever. So this thing's out there, man. It is out there. Crazy stuff on here. You got kind of a moment where they kind of let their guard down a little bit with this song called "The Winner Loses," kind of an anti-drug thing. So that's a little bit different. But right back to the crazy stuff. Evil Dick, about how his dick is evil and it just goes and fucks everybody and screws up the relationship that he had because it's all about his dick. He has no control over it apparently. You got this wild tune. Mama's Gotta Die Tonight. His mom's a racist, right? Taught him to not trust white people, so he kills her for that. He sets her on fire, burns her alive, beats her up with a baseball bat, carves her into pieces, takes the pieces all over the country. Because she's a racist. That song is just bizarre. I don't know who wrote that or what that's supposed to be, but the big thing on There Goes the Neighborhood was the single. That's the one that actually got played on the radio. The radio played this version. This is the clean version. And, forget about dropouts or reversing words or things like that. There's too much. So they basically just had to re-record the entire vocal track for the promo that got played on the radio. And I think there was a video on MTV too, and that's the clean version. But yeah, the absolutely one where, that's the thing about this. You're going to play these, you're going to have to roll them windows up. If you're going to, this is not the thing to go blasting down the road in East St. Louis with the windows down. This is not for mixed company. This absolutely not. And of course, the big controversial song ends the album, and it's called Cop Killer. And that's what it's about. And he's going off on a rampage and just basically killing law enforcement officers. And big controversy about that. Charlton Heston even got involved. So you got Moses up there talking about how this is a terrible song. He's reading off lyrics. He's reading off lyrics that aren't even in the song. And so they re-released the CD and took the song off and put a different thing on there with Jello Biafra from Dead Kennedys doing like a freedom of speech thing. But that's the controversial one. And you can listen to this and you can definitely tell that this is way out there, especially for Warner Brothers to come out with this. But it's 1992. Tensions are high. This is right after the Rodney King verdict, so that's where a lot of this is coming from. And for those of us who were alive at that time and who were aware of what's going, old enough to be kind of conscientious about what's going on, it was kind of like, this was the kind of thing that was coming out. So I didn't really know where to put this. A lot of it seems very kind of flighty and unserious, and then there's stuff on there that's so harsh and just like, damn. And then so just kind of put it here. I mean, the playing on it's decent. Ice-T's vocals, I mean, he's trying to sing in a lot of this, but it's more like talk singing. He's not gonna scare Ronnie James Dio at this point, or Ozzy Osbourne, or some metal singer or something like that. So, but body count. There's the body count chant that's on here too. So, Yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely a snapshot of a certain mentality and time and place of 1992. Hey, Ed Kuepper is back in 1992 with an album called Black Ticket Day. It's the follow-up to the one I reviewed in the 1991 series called Honey Steals Gold. This one, I think I prefer the Honey Steals Gold a little more than this one. This one's all right, though. It's Ed Kuepper. He's formerly of the punk band The Saints. Huge fan of them. I did that whole video reviewing their latest box set where they boxed the album I'm Stranded, their debut, with all kinds of bonus material. So check out that video if you're a big fan of early punk rock or The Saints or Ed Kuepper. This is not punk rock. His solo albums are not. They are much more melodic, much more in the pop rock, Australian pop kind of lane. And this one's pretty good, though. I really like his kind of low tenor voice going on here. Sort of a drone vocal that he's got going on here. Never gets too excited or rambunctious, but it's pleasing to the ear. And this is a pretty decent album. Like I said, I definitely prefer some of his other ones, but this one's okay. Starts off pretty strong with It's Lunacy, the first track. The second track, a 9-minute long story called Blind Stripper Girl, all about, his wordplay in this leaves a little bit to the imagination, like what exactly is going on. You got the petrol guy that's left the Bowser off to run, so you got like terms like that going on where you have to remember what a Bowser is. Oh yeah, that's a fuel tank that holds the fuel. Okay, and the petrol guy has okay, I get it. So it's kind of like that. The third track, Real Wild Life, a little bit, it starts to get a little bit too poppy, in the track that follows that same way, a little too poppy, and then he starts getting a little too horny for me, and I don't mean sexually, I mean horny. Here come the horns. Here comes this saxophone, which, again, not a fan of. Saxophones. Sometimes they work. I like some saxophones in songs, but they gotta suit the song. Here, I don't think as much. It's kind of distracting. I don't like it. Songs like All My Thoughts Run to Crime, which is a great title, by the way. That has this alarm going off that is quite alarming if you're driving. And because it's really well recorded. It sounds like somebody's alarm is going off somewhere and you're like, oh, wait, what? It's one of those type of things. But it's got the saxophone and it's just not for me. But there are moments on here that are nice. Nice melodies going on throughout. That's what his thing is after the punk rock stuff is really nice melodic music. Nice layers of sound. A bit morose, a bit melancholy in places. But if you know that that's what you're getting, it can be really nice listening to some of his solo stuff over the years. I know he's not popular at all in the U.S. I feel like I'm probably one of the only Americans that care about listening to his solo stuff or even know who he is. He's much more popular in his home of Brisbane, Australia, or just Australia in general. But I mean, I sought him out after, being a huge fan of the Saints and wanted to further my journey with his musical career. But again, this is definitely not punk rock. But there are some delightful moments on this album. But if you're going to start off with your Ed Kuepper solo stuff, this one's probably not the place to begin. Somewhere between dream pop and neo-psychedelia is the band from the UK, from England as a matter of fact, called The Telescopes. And in 1992 they put out their self-titled second album. And I was really late on this one. This one I didn't hear until probably the early 2000s, mid-2000s, somewhere around there. It was originally only released in the UK, so it was not available here in the United States. Just another one of those secrets that England's been keeping. And the secret's out, and the Telescopes are their name. And like I said, just that kind of dreamy, kind of nice, pleasant, sit back and relax. These guys sound like they were big fans of some lighter 60s psychedelic music. Nothing way out, nothing too spacey, nothing flying out of the speakers and different panning and stuff like that. They're a lot more restrained than that. But it is kind of the floating through and nice little pleasant vocals and things like that. It's a lot more polished than something you would probably hear from one of those bands in the 60s, and that definitely gives it a more of an early 90s feel. And like I said, there are touches of little dream pop, shoegaze, whatever you want to call it on here. But it's just very light, pleasant music. It actually gets really dreamy with the songs like And. Yeah, that's the title of one of the songs, And. You almost kind of drift off into that one. And then once you've drifted off, you get blasted with acoustic guitars for the next track called Flying. That's a little more upbeat. But yeah, they got songs like And Yeah. You know, that's another song title. So yeah, the Telescopes, if you're into that kind of thing and you've never heard of these guys, you definitely want to check this out, especially if you're into some of the lighter psychedelic, kind of more dreamy kind of stuff that's not going to send you off into a bad trip or something like that. Check this band out. Their self-titled second album, a little bit hard to find if you want to stream it. There is a full compilation, though, that puts their first few albums all together, and that is called Splashdown, The Complete Creation Years, because Creation is the label they were on. So it goes through each individual album just right after each other. I think this album starts off somewhere around track 19 or something. The first song is called Splashdown, so that makes it easy to remember. Splashdown, the Complete Creation Years. So yeah, check that out. They are the Telescopes, and if you like what you hear, you might want to follow their career because they have plenty more albums after this. In fact, they are still putting out albums recently. They came out with, I believe, 3 albums in 2024. So plenty to hear as you start your journey with the Telescopes. Okay, we go to Los Angeles to talk about a band called Life, Sex, and Death and their album called The Silent Majority. It was their only album. We used to play the song Tank in college. There's the promo for that. It's called 3 Songs You Can't Play on the Radio and 1 You Can, and the one you could was the song Tank. I'm a tank, I'm a tank, and I'm a tank. The lead singer sings everything like this. His name is Stanley, and his claim to fame, or his claim to infamy apparently, was that he stank. I remember that. Stanley stank. And that was their he goes around stinking. That was his thing. And he sings like this. The songs you couldn't play, by the way, if you're curious, include Yavol Asshole, Some Fucking Shit Ass, and Big Black Bush. Just, you know, and those are all on the album as well. Some Fucking Shit Ass is just, some fucking shit ass stole my money. Some fucking shit ass. Some fucking shit ass. Some fucking shit ass. It ain't funny. And then the song goes into this part where he's like, why can't we love instead of hate? Why can't we have peace in the world today? Some fucking shit ass. It's silly. But, you know, the whole album is kind of a little bit on the ridiculous side, but I think that's kind of what they're going for. You know, they just like to have some fun. Ends with this very gentle piano ballad called Rise Above, how he feels love in his heart. And you open up your heart to love and you become it's just him on the piano. So they're all over the place at the end, but it does have other things on here like Raise a Little Hell, where it suggests that you want to raise hell if you're in, different people in different parts of the world, different lives going on. They just sometimes need to raise a little hell. One example he gives is if you're working on a chain gang, you just got to raise a little hell sometimes. I wouldn't recommend that if you're working on a chain gang. I don't know a lot about chain gangs, but I have seen Cool Hand Luke several times, and that does not seem like the kind of place you want to start raising hell when you're on the chain gang. I got that guy watching up in the thing. They got the dude walking around like, what we have here is failure to communicate. You do not want to go raising hell on a chain gang, but according to Life, Sex, and Death, you do. They also had the single that I think they had a video for called Schools for Fools. So they're going for that school crowd that doesn't want to go to school. They don't teach you a thing. Schools for fools. What do you learn? I don't know how to read and things. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Schools for Fools, by the way. You should just drop out and become a band in LA in 1992 that came out with 1 album. They are Life, Sex, and Death, LSD. The album is called The Silent Majority. Brought back some nice memories, especially that I'm a tank song. So if you like something a little more rockin', it's rockin'. It's a little bit absurd. You might want to check out Life, Sex, and Death. The Stranglers are back in 1992 with a new lead singer. Paul Roberts has replaced Hugh Cornwell. Of course, they have the other 2 vocalists in here as well. I'm not really big. I don't really know a lot about the later Stranglers albums, so this was kind of a new thing for me. Of course, I'm a big fan of their early work, as the cliche goes. But if you're going into this one expecting something that sounds like some of their early songs, like Peaches and stuff like that, you are not going to find that here on this album. This is very much a straightforward band at this point. They're not doing anything outrageous. They definitely don't sound like a punk band at all. But it is 1992, and they've gone through several albums in several different styles at this point. So this one, you know, it's got some great stuff on here. It's got some not so great stuff on here. But it definitely lacks any kind of edge. There's none of that really edgy kind of, whoa, kind of lyrics on here. There's the song This Town, which starts off, the guy is not ashamed to be in love and show that he's in love, and a love that won't speak its name, or a love that is forbidden somehow. So that's kind of edgy. That's provocative. That's interesting. But then halfway through the song, the lyrics kind of change, and he starts talking about, oh, I want everyone to feel love, and I've found love for the people, and all people I love, and it's okay. Well, we went in that direction. So there's that song. There's straight ahead ballads on here. There's quirky like musical flourishes on songs like Wet Afternoon. There's straight up dance tracks that are it's actually really good, called Never See. Really like that one. But again, no edginess, nothing on here that's gonna like blow you away. Just a decent album. I think if you go into this album thinking, you know, oh, here's a band I've never heard of called the Stranglers, I wonder what this sounds like, you will have a much better listen than if you go, oh, I love the Stranglers, I love their early stuff, I really like walking on the beaches, looking at the peaches, and oh yeah, Bring on the Nubiles, that's my favorite. You know, you are definitely gonna not find that stuff on here, especially Bring on the Nubiles, a song that I mentioned in a previous video. Wow. There is just bad songs on here, like Gain Entry to Your Soul. That one's pretty bad, with these really dated keyboard stabs on there. And so, you know, the US version is different than the UK one. First of all, the cover's different. It's a white cover for the US one that slips inside of a red jewel case to make the cover red. So it's one of those where you have to be careful with the jewel case. You don't want to break the jewel case because it's a custom one. Hard to find a red jewel case. Also, the American one has 3 extra B-sides at the end that aren't on the UK release. So there's that. It is the Stranglers, In the Night, an album that will have you asking the question, what are sugar bullets and why is this guy sucking on them? I actually Googled sugar bullets because I've never heard of that before. And it took me to the Urban Dictionary. And I think that one is a definition that somebody just made up. I don't think that that's what the singer is singing about. Pale Saints is band from Leeds, and they're definitely in that dream pop mode. They're on the 4AD label, and In Ribbons is their second of only 3 albums that they put out. But they kind of venture, you know, they've got dream pop albums can sometimes, you know, stay focused on a particular sound throughout. You're just dreaming along, and it's, you know, this swirling kind of dream and waves of sound and echoey vocals, and that takes you through this, you know, passage of dreamland, and that's where you are for the whole thing. Pale Saints on this album really have some different textures going on, really have a different kind of sound than a lot of the dream pop stuff, and this one has different flavors in each of the tracks. For instance, there's a little bit of a harder sound in the track Ordeal, a little bit of a, you know, harder sound than you get in a lot of dream pop on that one, but then you get a lovely melody in the song Shell. You've got a track on here called Hunted that's got some nice little hidden bouncy little synths going on, along with a great tremolo as well. So a lot of different sounds on here, and it really keeps it as an interesting album. Later on, you've got great long instrumental parts at the beginning of songs, really great melodies. In tracks like Never Ending Night, absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, I wish songs like that, especially, and the one that follows that as well, because it's got like a long instrumental intro too. I wish they were instrumental all the way through. That's the issue I have with Pale Saints, is the vocalist. His name is Ian Matthews, and he's a little too precious, I think. He doesn't have, they don't put the effect on his voice, so he doesn't sound angelic or anything like that with big echoes and reverb and stuff like that. But so the vocals are fairly natural, but they're really, really, you know, kind of delicate. I guess you'd say, and I'm not into those as much. I love the melodies of some of the songs. Like I said, I love the variety. They keep the dream pop thing going, but they're doing different things with it. But it's the vocals, and there's no better example of this than a little 40-second track with just the vocals, very sparse musical accompaniment called There Is No Day, and it's just this, it gets even sing-songy-ish there, so not a fan of that. Hair Shoes, though, really like that one. That's the one where I was talking about the waves of sound that come, you know, with, you know, some dream pop stuff. That one definitely does that. If you're into that kind of like you're in the ocean and it's ocean of music with the waves just taking you, swaying you back and forth, then you want to check out Hair Shoes. You want to check out the whole album, really. But I think a lot of people probably will like the vocals that are into dream pop. But like I said, they're a little too delicate, a little too precious for me. But I really like the music on the album. And I wish, you know, especially those couple of tracks at the end, I wish that the, you know, when they start off with the long musical passages, I wish they would have just left those as instrumentals. All right, so cranking right through these, leaving you at this episode with number 119, ranking 215 albums from the year 1992. Thank you so much for watching. In the next episode, or the next part that's coming up, I've noticed that just the way that it worked out with the ranking, a lot of the next albums seem to be a lot more mainstream. There's a lot of more mainstream albums in there. If you don't know, well, I know you know, but for people who may not know a lot about like alternative rock or metal or, you know, all that kind of punk rock, whatever, these are the albums that are like right in the mainstream coming up. It's just the way a lot of them fell in the rankings. So expect a lot of that in the following video. And thank you again so much for watching. I'm Robert Fifth, and hopefully I will talk to you again soon.